Hello, welcome to my channel. You're watching What Helen Reads and I'm Helen, and today I have another romance recommendation video for you, and today I am talking all about single parents. So the first book I want to recommend is Caught Up by Liz Tomforde, and this is book 3 in the Windy City series. We are following Kai, Miller and Kai's son Max. Now this is a baseball romance, so it's a sports romance. It's also a nanny romance, single dad obviously, and an age gap. Now Kai is a very responsible man. He has had to bring up his younger brother, so he is like I say, very respectable, very responsible, and he hardly ever lets his hair down basically, and his main focus is baseball. But he obviously has at least one night of passion, because one day a lady knocks on his door and hands over a 6-month-old baby, Max, and basically says, "You're the father, I can't deal with bringing him up on my own, and so I'm leaving him with you." And so Kai finds himself suddenly in this situation where he's a single dad looking after a 6-month-old boy, and still trying to find a way to play baseball and put all his energy into that. Now he really struggles at first, and although his teammates rally around and they all help and he kind of gets various nannies to look after the child, he's really struggling. He's very much a helicopter parent, absolutely wants to do the best for his son, and is actually even thinking about retiring from baseball to look after his son full time. So he's really sort of struggling. Now he has got a coach, an amazing coach, who's been through a very similar experience, and he's like, "Don't quit baseball, you're absolutely an amazing player, it would be such a waste, and the whole team is here to help you, support you, so don't give up. It's you know, we can help you with Max." And then we meet Miller, who happens to be the coach's daughter. She is a sort of a famous chef, particularly a dessert chef, and she has taken some time off for the summer just to think about what she wants to do, try and create some new recipes and that sort of thing. And so she's available for the summer, and her father says to her, "Will you come on tour with us, and it'll be great if you could be Max's nanny and help Kai out." Now like I said, Kai's been through quite a few nannies. He's a bit of a helicopter parent. None of the nannies have been good enough. And when he first meets Miller, he's not impressed by her at all, because the very first meeting that they have is she's carrying a couple of bottles of beer, and it's very early in the morning, and he's not going to let his very young son in this woman's hands if she's going to be drinking beer at that time of the morning. What he doesn't know is, though, she's just been through a pretty rough time. She's pretty much quit a job and taken some time off the summer and has come to see her dad, so she absolutely needs a beer no matter what time of day it is. And like I said, they get off on the bit of the wrong foot really. But Kai is all out of options, and the coach basically says, "I don't care what your concerns are, my daughter is going to look after your son for the summer, and you're going to suck it up and agree to it, and you can't sack her." And so then she takes over the care of his son. Obviously, she's amazing with Max. Max absolutely loves her. She is a really great nanny, really, you know, gets a connection with Kai's son. And then they're obviously also in close proximity together because they're on tour together. They're like, their hotel rooms are next to each other, so she's can be there as soon as she needs to be to look after Max. And then over the course of time, they really get to sort of know each other. They've got great chemistry together. Their relationship starts to develop. This book for me is quite a long book. It does drag a little bit in the middle, but by the time we get to the 70% mark, I was literally like in tears for the last 30% of this book. I found it absolutely fantastic. Relationship between them really comes alive, and you really are rooting for this couple to be together, so would highly recommend. Then I've got Heartless by Elsie. No surprise that I will be recommending this for a single parent, because this is book 2 in the Chestnut Springs series, and we're following Cade, Willa and Cade's son Luke. Now Luke is sort of 8-9 years old, around that sort of age. And Cade is obviously our single parent. He's also a cowboy. He's very grumpy. So this is Grumpy Sunshine, age gap, and set in a small town. Essentially, Cade absolutely loves his son to death. and focuses all of his time either looking after his son or working on the farm, because he basically owns the ranch, and he's you know, totally responsible. All the burden rests on him. He's trying to look after his whole family, and you know, he's sort of struggling a little bit and needs someone to look after Luke for the summer. Now, very similar to Kai's situation, he's been through quite a lot of nannies. Or, well, he's not that he's been through the nannies, but he's been through a lot of interviews to try and find a nanny that's suitable for Luke. But the thing is, he's a very eligible bachelor in town, and a lot of women that have applied clearly have no interest in Luke, and they're really there to get into Cade's pants, and Cade is not having any of this, and he's not interested in any of this either. So when Summer, who is Cade's sister-in-law, is the heroine from book 1, says to Cade, my best friend Willa has got nothing to do this summer because she works for a bar. The bar's being renovated. She is at a loose end for this summer, and I think she would make the perfect nanny for Luke. Cade is a little bit sceptical. He's not really sure, and he and Willa don't get off to necessarily a great start. Cade really doesn't want her to be the nanny for Luke, but he's out of options, and Summer like presses the issue and says you need to give Willa a chance. So Willa becomes Luke's nanny. She moves into Cade's house. So this is a live-in situation, so for like sort of close proximity. And of course, Willa is the perfect nanny for Luke. They have such a great relationship, such a great bond. Luke absolutely loves her, and over time, Cade starts to love Willa too, because she absolutely wins not only his son over, but him over, and the whole town over as well. And Willa is such a fantastic character. This couple are fantastic, and the relationship that Willa develops with Luke is absolutely amazing to see as well. He's such a great boy, and great to read. So would highly recommend this one if you're looking for a single parent romance. Then I want to recommend a couple of mafia romances, and the first one is Sinful Vows by Lilian Harris, and this is book 1 in the Messina crime family. We are following Michael and Elsie and Michael's daughter Sophia. So in addition to Michael being a single dad, this is also a forced sort of marriage situation as well. So Michael is about to take over for the Messina crime family. His father wants to retire, but his father's like, you need to get married, you need to produce another heir basically, and so you need to get married, and I want you to get married in the next 2 weeks. And I've got a list of women that might be suitable, but Michael's like, no, I don't want to get married. He doesn't want to be distracted by a woman. He wants to absolutely focus on the family business and growing the family business, and he's not interested, and he's not interested in anyone that his father might recommend. But he doesn't have to look too far, because this is where we meet Elsie. Now, Elsie's been in a very, very terrible situation. Between sort of like graduating from school and going to college, she goes on a road trip with some friends. And on this road trip, her and her friends get abducted, sold into sex slavery, and for the last 7 years she has been forced to be like a sex worker, and has been put through some very, very traumatic situations indeed. And one day Michael is doing some business with these sex traffickers at the place where she's been held captive, and she gets an opportunity to escape, because she can escape through a window. And then she sneaks into the back of Michael's car, and then obviously he drives away with her. Now when he gets back to his house, he parks in the garage and goes into the house, and then she's kind of able to get out of the car, and she's trapped in sort of this garage area of this house, if you like. Of course, Michael knows that she was actually in the back of the car. He was just waiting to see how it would all play out. And when Michael finally confronts Elsie, he realises that it's a perfect opportunity to get himself a wife. In exchange, he's not going to hand her over to, you know, the sex traffickers, and will also agree to help her friend and try and rescue her friend if she agrees to marry him. And he sort of said, look, it's going to be in name only, we're not going to fall in love or anything, and after about 6-12 months I'll let you go. Just want to satisfy my dad's requirements basically, so I can take over as the head of this family. Of course, he has a wonderful daughter called Sophia, and Elsie starts to develop a relationship with her. And then, you know, feelings between Michael and Elsie start to change as well. So I thought this was a great example of a mafia romance with a single parent. So too is Broken Whispers by Neva Altaj, and this one is book 2 in the Perfectly Imperfect series. In this one we're following Mikhail and Bianca. Now, Mikhail is part of the Russian mafia. He's part of the leadership team, if you like, of the Russian mafia. And Bianca is an Italian mafia princess who's also a ballerina. Now, the two families need to organise and arrange marriages in order to bring an alliance between these families, and the Italian family offer up Bianca as kind of like the token bride, if you like. And none of the other Russian men around the leadership table want to marry Bianca, but Mikhail volunteers and he says, I'll do it. And secretly Mikhail has been following Bianca for quite a while. He absolutely is massively attracted to her. She is a ballerina and he has been going to quite a lot of her performances, and he loves to watch her dance. And so when he gets a chance to be arranged in marriage to this woman, like I say, he puts his hand up and absolutely volunteers. The thing is, Mikhail never dreams that she's going to fall in love with him, because he is very much a damaged, scarred hero. He's been through a very traumatic past, and he doesn't believe that anyone will be able to love him. And he's got, like, he wears an eye patch because he's, you know, he was injured quite badly and his eye is very badly damaged. And so now he wears this eye patch, and he just thinks that no one will be able to love him. But Bianca has also got a lot of scars. She's been through a lot of trauma herself, and in fact she is a mute heroine. She doesn't speak, and so Mikhail and Bianca have to find a way to communicate together. But Mikhail has a daughter called Lena. The daughter is absolutely super cute, really, really nice. And of course, Bianca strikes up a relationship with Lena, and also starts to soften towards Mikhail, because as with all of Neva Altaj's mafia heroes, although they are mafia heroes, they are super sweet, super nice, and it's a really sort of soft mafia kind of romance. And Mikhail is an absolutely fantastic hero, and I know he's a lot of people's favourites from that series as well. So then my next recommendation is P.S. You're Intolerable by Julia Wolfe, and this is book 3 in the Harder They Fall series. And in this one we're following Catherine and Elliot, as well as being a single mum. So Catherine is our single mum in this one. She has a baby daughter called Joey. This is also a workplace romance, a billionaire romance, like Boss. It's a grumpy sunshine and close proximity, and our female main character, Catherine, is also a Kirby heroine as well. So lots of tropes in this one. It's a super sweet romance. Elliot is our billionaire. He is in real estate. That's how he's made his money, and he's also a very grumpy hero. He's very, very difficult to work for. He's a perfectionist, likes everything just the way he likes it, and so he is can be quite abrasive, quite difficult to deal with. And Catherine gets hired as his personal assistant, and so Elliot is our intolerable hero because Catherine finds him almost impossible to work for. However, she eventually figures out a routine with him, you know, learns how he likes everything done, and pretty soon Catherine becomes, you know, Elliot finds that she's invaluable to him and the way he works, and he can't live without her. The thing is, Catherine has had this, not necessarily a boyfriend, but a very, very close male friend who she believes she could trust. They actually bought a house together that needed a lot of renovations, and they've spent a lot of money on the renovations. The thing is, this friend, so-called friend, has upped and left her, taken quite a lot of the money and gone back to Australia, and she finds out that she's pregnant, and so he's not only left her with this half-finished house in a lot of debt with no cash, but also facing the fact that she is going to be a single mum to his baby. Obviously then she starts working for Elliot, and Elliot has absolutely no idea that she's pregnant and doesn't notice for quite some time, until his friends start to say, hey, I think your personal assistant might be pregnant, she's going on maternity leave. And Elliot is totally taken aback by this. He literally hasn't noticed. So when Catherine goes on maternity leave, Elliot is distraught because he can't live without her, and he's like, what am I going to do while you're on maternity leave? Do you need to go on maternity leave? What am I going to do without you? And he kind of gets himself a temp, but the temp is pretty useless. And so after Catherine's had her baby daughter Joey, there's a point in this book where Elliot needs to go to her house to pick up some paperwork, and when he gets to her house and sees the state of this house, that it's halfway through its renovations, it's really not fit to live in, certainly not fit to bring up a baby in, and he basically says, Catherine, I have a really big house, lots of rooms, come and live with me and I'll help you sort this out, but you cannot bring your baby up in this environment and you need to come and live with me. And so Catherine agrees and she goes to live with Elliot, and now of course they are roommates in close proximity together, and Elliot starts to develop a bond not only with Catherine but her daughter Joey as well. It's absolutely beautiful to watch, a really, really sort of sweet romance, and you know, over time, you know, Catherine starts to realise what a wonderful person Elliot is, and they kind of work through their issues, you know, of being the boss and the PA and everything, and work through all of that. And Elliot is also very conscious of this potential power imbalance that they have, because he's so wealthy and she is totally reliant on him, and he tries to even the playing field a little bit. And so some of the things that happen in here are super swoony, and Elliot is a great boyfriend, but it is a very sweet romance. So if you normally like a lot of like darker heroes, then you won't find that in Elliot at all. He is super sweet. So my next recommendation is The Bombshell Effect by Karla Sorenson. This is a sports romance and it's book 1 in the Washington Wolves series. So this is a football romance. So basically our hero Luke is a quarterback in the Washington Wolves football team, and he has a daughter called Faith. So he's our single parent and he's got this daughter called Faith. And Ali is the heroine in this one, and basically her father owns the Washington Wolves and he passes away, and in his will he leaves Ali the football team. And so she comes back. She's been living abroad, and she comes back to the US, finds out that she's going to be the owner of this football team, and moves into this house on this very nice estate while she's trying to figure it all out and figure out what she's going to do. She doesn't know if she's going to sell the football team, or if she's going to try and run it, or what she's going to do. But when she moves into this house, she notices that there's somebody next door with a little girl, and she decides she's going to do something very neighbourly and bake some cookies and knock on the door and introduce herself and offer them these cookies. The thing is, the person who's living next door to her is Luke, and unfortunately he's been very scarred by women, and you know, he's a very handsome quarterback of a football team, and so he's very used to women falling all over him. So when this very beautiful woman knocks on his door offering him some cookies, he automatically thinks it's some sort of fan, somebody trying to trick him into a relationship, and he is very, very rude to Ali, and basically turns her away. And so Ali is quite put out by this, stomps off, decides that she's going to hate her neighbour, and it starts a bit of a neighbour war. Like, she'll play her music too loud and he'll tell her to, you know, turn it down. But his daughter is very inquisitive. Faith is his daughter, and she's constantly popping next door, starting a relationship, starting a conversation with Ali. And so Ali and Faith start to get to know each other a little bit. Obviously only a couple of days pass, and then Ali goes to work, you know, to see this football team, and that's when she realises that Luke, her horrible neighbour, happens to be the quarterback of this football team. And Luke sees her and he's sort of horrified. He's like, oh no, she's kind of my new boss, and she's also this horrible woman that lives next door to me. What are we going to do? And so they try and keep their antagonistic neighbour relationship separate from their work relationship. But of course, they're in close proximity together, not only at work, but in their home situation as well. And it's not too long before Ali starts to work her way under Luke's skin, and he starts to, you know, appreciate her company, shall we say. But of course, from a media PR perspective, it's not going to look too good that the owner is dating one of the football players, and so they've got some things to work out if they want their relationship to work. But I really enjoyed this one, and Faith, Luke's daughter, plays a really good part, and Ali forms a definite bond with her, which is great to see. Then we have Undertow by Sam Mariano, and this is book 2 in the Coastal Elite series. This is very much a dark romance. It's also quite a short book at 198 pages, so if you're looking for a quick read, this is the one. I put it in here as single parents because both Hayden and Gemma, who are our hero and heroine in this one, are both single parents, but it's a bit of a cheat in a way because they're both single parents to teenagers. Hayden's son is Landon, and Gemma's daughter is Parker, and Landon and Parker get their own story in book 3 of the Coastal Elite series. And in fact, Landon has been Parker's bully for many years. Now, Gemma's situation is that she is a dance teacher, but she bought this plot of land, and then this land around the plot that she bought was developed by this very, very fancy, luxurious housing sort of company, and she's got this little plot of land, and they basically said to her, look, we don't want to, you know, ruin the aesthetic of the estate, so we are happy to build you a house on your plot of land for a reduced amount, just so that, you know, it's all in keeping and everything with the rest of the estate. And so she agrees to this. So she is now living in quite a nice house on this estate, but she doesn't really belong there amongst the other neighbours, if you like. And to be honest, the neighbours are horrible to her and are trying to push her out. So they're trying to make her feel really, really uncomfortable, asking her why she's there, when's she going to move out, can they sell it to a friend, because basically they want someone else to move in. So they're pretty much making Gemma's life a misery. And one day she's absolutely had enough, and she says, right, I'm going to take legal action against my neighbours because this is getting out of hand. And she says to her daughter, who do you know in town that is, you know, who's a really good lawyer? And she said, well, Landon's dad, Hayden, is a pretty good lawyer. And so Gemma gets straight into the car and heads off to Hayden's law practice. Now, Hayden is a very good lawyer, he's a very successful lawyer, and he charges a lot of money. And she bursts straight into his office, and it's a great first scene because she's still in her dance instructor outfit, and she's happened to be in a belly dancer outfit, and he mistakes her maybe for like, you know, maybe a call girl or something. It's like, what is this woman dressed as a ballet dancer coming into my office? He figures out pretty quickly she's there to seek legal advice. But of course, then he says to her, hey, I don't give free consultations. You've just barged in. It's 15 minutes. You owe me about $1,500. That's how expensive I am, how much I charge, because that's how good I am. And she's like, I can't pay that amount of money. And he said, you don't have to pay it if you come out on a date with me. Of course, she's absolutely horrified by this suggestion. She's like, I am not going out on a date with you. I will find a way to pay you. Thanks for the consultation, but I can't afford any more, and then I'm going. But Hayden has decided he wants Gemma for himself, and he's not going to take no for an answer. And so he pursues her, and he's like, why won't you go on a date with me? And she then says to him, because, I don't know if you know, but your son is my daughter's bully, and he's been bullying her for years at school, and there's no way I'm going to go out with you when your son is being so horrible to my daughter. And of course, Hayden is not going to let this get in his way at all, is he? This is a tiny little small detail that he's not going to let him stand between him and Gemma. And he persuades Gemma, actually, you know, I'm going to get my son under control. Don't you worry about it. This is not going to stop us being together. Come out with me. And he also kind of like has a quiet word with Parker and says, you know, you want your mum to be happy, so tell her you're happy with this arrangement, and you'll put up with Landon, but I'll make sure that you're okay. And so they kind of have this, you know, agreement between themselves that that's sort of what's going to happen. Of course, this is a Sam Mariano hero, so Hayden absolutely does get his way, and Parker is content to let her mother be happy, but there means some consequences for her in book 3. So I'll squeeze this one in here. They are technically single parents, but I had to recommend it because Sam Mariano is so great, and I love this series so far. And then my final recommendation is Breaking the Speed Limit by Melanie Moreland. So we're moving and finishing on a much sweeter small town romance, and this is book 2 in the Reynolds Restoration series. And this one we're following Stefano and Gabby is our single mum, and she has a 5-year-old called Theo. Now, Stefano is a mechanic at Reynolds Restorations, and Gabby is new in town, and she's actually running away from a very abusive partner, Theo's dad, and she's sort of like, you know, on the run basically, because if he catches up with her, he's likely to unalive her, let's say that. So she's very scared. One day she is travelling along the road, a car breaks down, and Stefano comes by and stops to try and help her, and then says, hey, I'll take your car to Reynolds Restorations, we'll get the car up and running again for you, no problem. And he takes an instant like to her, they have instant chemistry, an instant connection, and he wants to try and date her. Obviously she's quite wary of men because of her, you know, because of her recent trauma, but Stefano is a great guy and she starts to sort of date him. But when her past catches up with her, because, you know, it's going to, isn't it, she has to make a decision whether she's going to you know, tell Stefano everything and ask him for help, or if she's going to try and make a run for it and escape before her ex-partner catches up to her. So I really love this one because not only is it a small town romance, there's elements of suspense, and it's also a great example of found family as well. And with all of these books, you know, Stefano has an instant connection with Theo. He takes him on as if he's his own, and it's absolutely fantastic to see the relationship as it grows. And Gabby, you know, as Stefano falls in love with Theo as much as he falls in love with Gabby, and that is great to see. So there we are, that is 8 recommendations for single parents. I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content from me, and if you have any book recommendations of books that you want me to read, remember there is a link to a book recommendation form in the description box down below. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Like I said, we're following Kai and Miller, and Kai is our baseball player, and did I say baseball player? I don't know what I've said. Start again. But of course, Michael knows. Oh, let's just check for lipstick. I did have lipstick there. I wonder how long I had lipstick there. Should I start from the beginning, or should I just press on and hopefully it wasn't noticeable? Right, so Sinful Vows. I'm just going to crack on, because if I've got lipstick on my teeth, you're just going to have to put up with it, because it's ridiculous. I'm just going to check my... Well, good. This damn lipstick's going to be the end of me, isn't it? I don't even know what I'm doing at this point.